Need to Succeed, the podcast. This will help you get everything that you want. This will power lift your life, give you unshakable confidence to achieve your biggest goals and wildest dreams. It's going to help you to create a life that you love and build relationships that you adore. Why am I so confident that I can give you that? This is my job. I'm a mindset and confidence coach. This is what I do for a living. I've never given these life hacks away on a podcast for free before, but that's about to change right now. So put your seatbelts on and buckle up and get ready to enjoy the ride of your lifetime. People call me the mother of motivation, the confidence queen, the person that you go to for positivity. This podcast will motivate and empower you to run at your life, and the fastest way you can do that is to use these techniques, the same ones that I've used in my own life and the ones that I use and encourage for my clients. The only question that is left to ask you is, are you ready? Let's do this. Hello and welcome to Everything You Need to Succeed, the podcast. We are back and we are on step 3. Are you ready? I have my wingman with me.
Hello, I'm very excited about step 3. What is step 3?
Right, step 3 is all about how to build your core muscle.
Wow, do I have a core muscle? Isn't that the thing you use when you're doing squats?
Yeah, your core muscle. It's the thing that if you're a gymnast, if you're an athlete, they always say, hold your core, the center.
Right. So why is that relevant to everything else that we've been talking about? Is this a PE lesson, or is this mindfulness and mind workout with your core muscles?
Well, this is mind workout. And the thing is, Chris, with everything that I teach, I always use fitness analogies. The fact that I trained as a dancer and, I spent a lot of my time in the ballet studio trying to work on my pirouettes. Often we were told, hold your core muscle, make sure you've got a good center.
I mean, obviously for me, my core muscle is hidden behind various layers of enjoyment and I don't see a lot of it. I notice that I do have some muscles, but I don't spend a lot of time concentrating on them.
Yeah, I think that, and that's important. It's how often do we spend looking actually at the internal side of us, which actually mean building your self-esteem.
Right, okay. So it's how you feel about yourself inside, in the middle of your very being. Kind of like when you're eating an apple and you get to the bit in the middle with the pips. That is the essence of the apple. That's where the new apple tree is going to grow, but you can't eat it.
No, you can't eat the core. Often, and if we look at it from an eating point of view, which we always come back to eating, is when we look at your core muscle, your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself. Often, if I'm speaking to people who are dealing with weight and emotional baggage, a lot of the time we talk about eating our emotions, because our core is the center. It's, like you said, who we are, who we believe about ourselves.
Your pips.
I don't get that joke.
Apples have pips. The bits in the middle, the little seeds. Do you not call them pips?
I don't think I ever get that far with an apple, to be honest. I don't like apples.
Pears have them as well.
Yes, the pips, the little pips. And I suppose, okay, with the pip analogy, we can look at the pip analogy in the sense that your core muscle, is made up of a bundle of beliefs, And if we look at our self-concept, like one of the greatest discoveries of the 21st century is our self-concept. It's the way that we see ourselves. And that is built up of lots of pips. Let's say you've got your self-esteem. You've got the way you see yourself, the way you feel about yourself, the way you communicate with yourself. In fact, Dr. Nathaniel Branden, he says that your self-esteem is literally a reputation with yourself, how you see yourself. So this is a really important step because often, if you don't have a good, strong core, you don't have what are you smiling at?
I'm thinking about self-esteem. I'm thinking your self-esteem is when you wipe the bathroom mirror and you see through the steam how things really are.
It's the clarity.
It's the clarity.
It's the
behind the esteem on the window.
Well, I suppose okay, then let's go with your analogy of the steam. And we could talk about smoke and mirrors, can't we? So if we think about how many of us, we walk around with this mask, this Go on.
No, it's fine. I'm just going to smile a lot while I'm looking at you, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily say everything that pops into my head, because a lot of it is not going to be relevant or suitable.
Do you know what I love about this conversation? This is what I love about this conversation, Chris, is I spend a lot of my time going into schools, going into businesses, doing one-to-ones, and whenever we talk about the self-esteem, it's always a really serious topic because it's the core, it's the center, it's base, everything is tied up in our thoughts, our beliefs, you know, and just standing here with you, you've made it so much more enjoyable.
I just have this habit of smirking at the wrong time, so ignore that. But you're right, self-esteem is so important, and I think it's a very difficult thing to do anything about, because a lot of people think, well, that's just, you know, that's my accurate assessment of how I am. Yeah, but it's not.
It's not. And the brilliant thing is about your self-esteem, and this is a topic that's been talked about so many times when we talk about mindset and self-esteem and self-worth and all of this stuff. This is really the core of the work that I do. Because if you have a vision and a dream of where you want to be and you believe in yourself, but your core isn't strong, meaning that when you go out into the world, there's going to be things that are going to knock you down. You're going to get punched in the face. You're going to lose your way. You're going to lose your shirt. You're going to experience so much. If you don't have the ability to bounce back, to get back up, to have the resilience, then you'll just end up on the floor, like not just figuratively, literally, you'll end up, because what happens is we go through life, and if we haven't worked on the foundation of who we really are, and we haven't built that layer of unshakable, unstoppable self-confidence where it doesn't matter what life throws at you, you're able to keep going, that gives you the power to actually reach your goals. But if every time something goes wrong, somebody says no, somebody shuts the door in your face, or you get disappointed and you go, right, that's it, I'm going to retreat, then what happens is you never actually excel. So your core is an inside job. It's about each of us doing the work on ourselves.
And I think it's okay to accept that sometimes you are going to fall over, but it's making sure that you do stand up again and keep going. You don't just stay there on the floor wallowing.
Absolutely. And the thing is, there's this really good quote by Les Brown. He says, if you can look up, you can get up. And I think a lot of the time we have this fear of falling with our face down, but the idea is just to try and fall on your back, you know, if it's
yeah, but you can always look up, can't you? Even if your head's sort of twisted round, you just got to work out where the top is,
where up is,
and look up. But do you think sometimes it's not always clear which way is up? If you've fallen over and you're a bit disorientated, sometimes you think you're looking up, but actually what you're looking at is a hole.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's true. And do you know what? You made me think about something. I was just on the phone to my friend, and she was like, I was saying to her, like, the confidence star, which is this star-shaped mirror, which we'll talk about a bit later, which I use to build confidence. She said that, do you know what? Sometimes she said she read somewhere that it said, if you are struggling with depression, or you are struggling with anxiety or overwhelm or imposter syndrome, before you go and get the diagnosis, just check and look around to see if you're not actually just surrounded by loads of assholes.
Yeah. No, that's true though, because a lot of what you feel like you're seeing in the world is just a reflection, and it might not be the reality. It might just be what the people that you surround yourself with are kind of projecting to you. Yeah.
Environment is absolutely everything. So the main things that I want to focus on, so that when you leave listening to this, that they can take something away, is that the words that you say to yourself are powerful, because they can make you or they can break you. And we have to take the time now to really think about what are the things that we've been feeding ourselves. What have been the consistent words that we say to ourselves? How do we trip ourselves up? How sometimes people say, oh, I berate myself. So when you do something wrong, you're like, oh, you're stupid. Oh, you're so lazy. And we spend all of our time telling ourselves off. But what happens is telling ourselves off doesn't improve us. We don't improve if we're mean to ourselves. You know, and I always think of the idea of, if you imagine, every single one of us has like a 3-year-old child in us. Like, we know you've got a 2-year-old, haven't you?
I have. I was just telling you about my holiday and the very naughty behaviour of my 2-year-old. But it's just him being 2. You know, that's just how he is. But it's frustrating when you want him to walk in a certain direction and he walks in the opposite direction. And then when you tell him off, he thinks it's the funniest thing ever, and he just rolls on the floor in hysterics. It's very hard to achieve that level of respect. And the thing that is the most frustrating is that instead of saying, "I'm sorry, Daddy," he'll sing "Old MacDonald Has a Farm" to me, because that's his frame of reference. So he'll just start singing E-I-E-I-O.
Unfortunately, you didn't get to see Chris's picture of his son, which was hilarious. I was like, this is an advert to have a child. His son is like basically laying on the ground and just stamping and just frustrated. And I said to him, "How old's your son?" He was like 2. I said, "Oh yeah, I remember the 2s." And the reason why they call it the terrible 2s is actually because between 18 months and 24 months is actually a really important developmental marker in your child's life. They did this incredible study with these, so parents sometimes say, "Oh, my 2-year-old's out of control. I'll tell them to sit down, they'll stand up, I'll tell them to come here, and they'll run there." And I'm like, this is great, because I heard this incredible study where they put a 2-year-old, an 18-month-year-old on their mother's lap. Yeah, no, they were just under 18 months. And they, at first, when the baby was on the lap, they put a little bit of red lipstick on the baby's nose while looking in a mirror. Okay. So the mum's sitting down and the baby's on their lap and they're looking in a mirror. And the baby has some red lipstick on their nose. Up until 18 months, every baby turns around and tries to wipe the lipstick off the mum's nose.
I'm going to try this. I'm going to start experimenting on ours, because we've got a 4-month-old as well.
Yes.
So we can try the experiment.
Exactly. But then when they get to a certain point between 18 and 24 months, and you do it, they wipe it off theirs, because that's the moment they realise that they are their own individual entity. They're not on strings, because up until that point, they are a real part of their, maybe the main carer, I say the mum, but it could be the dad. And this is really important. So when your child is running and not listening to what you're saying and they're 2, this is great. This means that they're starting to see themselves as a whole being, which is great. And then what do parents do? Sit down, shut up, stop it. And that's where you create the trauma at that very early age, because they're like, "I'm free." And you're like, "Sit down, stop that, don't do that."
You're right. But actually, he has a lot of freedom to just do what he wants. And I think that's the problem, that I just let him run amok. And then when I try and say, "No, this is important, don't run out in front of the cars," it's quite hard to kind of set those boundaries.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think it's a really difficult time when you're raising a 2-year-old, because you're at the state where they are literally, "I'm free. I can run, I can do this, I can laugh, I can cry." And it's about being able to, but with all the work that I do, is language is the most important thing. Like language, if we can teach ourselves how to communicate with ourselves, we could communicate with our children. That's the biggest barrier I'm finding with the work that I'm doing. Language. It's always the behavior, it's not the child. But for us, we have to remember that when from childhood, we may have been conditioned or communicated in a way that hasn't been best for our own development. So we've built up in us these limiting beliefs about what we can do, because we're afraid if we do it, we might get in trouble, or it might hurt, or we might get rejection. And then we build this fear up. So there's a fine line between giving your child the freedom to be expressive and then clipping their wings.
And how much did those negative things that you get told as a child stay with you for your whole life? Are they the kind of the core messages that stay in your subconscious, that just keep repeating, the ones that you're told as you're little, to stop being stupid, stop being silly? Yeah. Those kind of messages just kind of stay with you?
Absolutely. Our subconscious mind is so powerful. If you were to speak to your grandmother, they can tell you stories of 50 years ago when they were a little child. If you speak to grandparents, they can tell you, "Oh, when I was 3 or 5 or 6, and they remember it, because we've got this infinite amount of storage in our subconscious minds. And the thing is with the mind is we can't differentiate the stuff that's good or bad. It's all there. So if on a subconscious level we've been told by our teachers, our neighbours, our grandparents, our parents that we're not good, or we're stupid, or we're silly, or we're late, or we're loud, or we're a chatterbox, or whatever it is, whether it's intentional to hurt us or to control us or to empower us, either way it's stored. Because when a baby comes into the earth, into this world, they're a blank slate. What's his name? Something Hume, and he calls it the Razzler tabla, which is basically means the blank slate. And the idea is that we all come into this world with this blank slate, and everything that's said to us is imprinted on our subconscious mind, and it's there even below layers, deep down. There's these deep grooves that have been built into us from childhood, and some of them are good and some of them are not so good. And the people who've imprinted the not so good stuff. They are good people, but they weren't aware at the time. Like, I'll give you a good example. My brother-in-law, he's got a little one. She's older now, but when she was little, every time she stood on a chair and went to jump, he'd go, "Get down, be careful, get down, be careful." And I'd be like, stop telling her to get down and be careful. She's she's meant to be able to jump. Yeah, but she'll fall. And I said, yeah, but if you do not let her have the freedom, that, that's why. But with the little boy, yeah, let him jump. And that's why, young girls get to the point where girls aren't able to jump and fall and be muddy and dirty because their parents have been like, no, be careful, darling, be careful.
My wife's sister's kid, every time that he was on a climbing frame, they'd encourage him to jump off and catch him. And then he got it into his head that if he just threw himself off high things, that his parents would always be there to catch him. And he would just climb up to the top of the climbing frame. They're now constantly paranoid. They're kind of running around like a safety net. Is he going to throw himself off? It's just like throw himself backwards, expecting them to be there to catch him. So far, they always have. But the day will come.
Oh, well then, and this is great that you've brought this, because a lot of parents, we love our children. We want to protect them. We want to prepare them. We want to keep them safe. And then to do that, we might use language that actually holds them back, or we could enable them, and in this situation, what I would suggest to a parent is to sit down and have the conversation, whether it's role play and say, explain to them that they won't always be there, and then do the role play even, with a crash mat or something, just so they understand, because they can't just always be there for them. That's dangerous.
It's incredibly dangerous, but he just doesn't seem to realise. And you see it. He'll just be like climbing up to the top of the slide, and you think he's going to go down the slide, but no, he'll just jump backwards off the ladder, and they're there.
They're like, so they must be on high alert, those parents. They must be literally just like this. But just to carry on from what you said, it brings me to this point, is that a lot of parents, most parents, cheer for their children. We want our children and we cheer for them. And the thing I say is that our job as parents is actually to teach our children to cheer for themselves. So if we can give them the tools and the skills to cheer for themselves and to manage their emotions, and then they'll be fine. But if we're always there, go like to catch them, then what happens is we're putting this false protection that's not really there, so that when they do fall on the ground for the first time when they go out into the world, they're like so petrified and traumatized that they can't get up.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a rare example, but generally the advice is don't teach your children to throw themselves off high buildings. I mean, he'll take himself out of the gene pool, but we don't really want that to happen.
Yes. But I love it. And the thing is, it's such an abstract conversation. So when we look at building your core muscle, I truly believe it's an inside job, and we can start really early. Like, as parents, we can teach our children how to affirm to themselves and how to take control of the words that they say, because we're not in our children's heads, but we are in our own heads. So if we do the work first, and start saying, what am I always telling myself? Like, I know some people, they say, I'm thick. And I'd be like, stop saying that you're thick. And it's because some point in their life, someone told them that they were thick, and they believed that, and now they own it. And I'm like, get rid of that, because every time you say I'm thick, you're affirming.
I think also with a lot of people, they play up to it. It's that Joey Essex syndrome, where he's not really stupid, but that's the character that he plays, and you feel like you have to be how people expect you to be. So if people think you're the stupid one in the group, you'll
lean into the
being
character,
silly and saying stupid things that are a bit stupid, but because that's the character that you're playing, that's the role, and it's not to get into those negative characteristics.
You've really touched on something there, Chris, because if you've got high levels of confidence and high levels of self-esteem, when someone says something to you that is not true, you will lean in and say no. Les Brown, I love Les Brown, but he says that when someone says something negative to you, you have to say the opposite 17 times just to bring it back to neutral. And when I heard that, I thought 17 times, the power of one person's opinion means that you have to say the opposite 17 times, which means, like, if someone says, oh, I'll tell you one thing that frustrates me, parents, and I know there's going to be people listening who say, oh, they're shy. I say, they're not shy. Oh, they are shy. I say, stop saying out loud in front of your child that they're shy, because now you have made them have to be shy, because if they are out there, they're going to make you look like a liar. Do you think your child wants to make you look like a liar? No. So stop saying out loud they're shy. And parents go, but they are shy. I said they're not shy. It's not that they're shy. It's that they don't know what is expected of them in this situation. So if you communicate with your child, when grandma and grandpa bring Uncle Eddie that you've never met, then what you have to say is, hello, nice to meet you. That's all you have to say. And then when you've finished, just, stand there and smile or chill out. Or it's because they just don't know what to do. So then they hide behind their mum's leg or dad's leg. And the mum goes, they're so shy. So when someone said to me once with my son, they go, oh, is he shy? I said, he's not shy. He's very confident. Because I know if I go, yeah, because it's polite, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Children will exhibit behaviour that looks shy in certain circumstances, but if you draw attention to it and you say they're shy, it's just going to make them feel like they're a shy person. But everybody has times when they feel shy, but you don't want to encourage them to do that all the while. And by saying, no, he's not shy, he's confident, he'll think, yes, I am. And then it'll make him confident.
Exactly. And that's the power of words. That's the power. I love that. Like, imagine if we just say from now on, when someone says, oh, are they shy? No, he's very confident. Just in this situation, he's not sure what to do.
But anything negative like that, if you say, oh, your child's a bit naughty, if you say, no, he's not, he's a bit tired, maybe, but he's certainly not naughty. No, that might look like naughty behaviour, but I don't know if that would work.
Yeah, but you know what you said there, Chris, though? That comes back to the topic, confidence. If you have not got confidence in yourself, do you think that people who lack in confidence have the ability when someone says, oh, your child's really naughty or really shy, has the confidence to go, no, they're not? Because no one wants confrontation. So what we do actually is go, yeah, but we're thinking no.
I think it's about, putting out positive messages rather than making excuses for your kids all the time. And it's actually, naughty behaviour is confidence a lot of the time, isn't it? It's great that he can sing Old MacDonald at full volume in the supermarket and will pick up a watermelon and throw it across the floor of the supermarket and shout goal and jump up and down. That's confidence. Gosh,
yeah, and that's the truth. Babies come into this world with like no fears whatsoever. In fact, when we come into the world, we have no inhibitions. We'll shout, we'll cry, we'll scream, we'll pick up something, throw it and dance about. And then there comes a time when people say, why are you doing that? You shouldn't do that. Stop doing that. And then we wonder why so many young people get to a point where they're clipped. And it's because we have to allow us to embrace our childlike qualities, but in a controlled, in an environment that is developing personality and growth, but also making them aware that, when you just threw that melon on the floor, first of all, this isn't ours, we haven't purchased it. And secondly, someone's going to have to tidy that up now. So we really love the fact that you had the energy and the passion. But when we go to the supermarket next time we come to the supermarket, that's not the behaviour that I want here, darling.
Yeah. Problem is, I'm encouraging it and laughing at him. And my wife's saying, I think we need to discourage him from throwing melons across the floor.
And there is that conflict, isn't there? There's the conflict of, ultimately, we all want our children to grow up with high self-esteem, high confidence, where they're eager and happy to go out into the world and take it on and become everything they're capable of. But along that way, sometimes we get in the way of that happening because of our fears. And I can tell you a good story. Like, my children loved, from a very young age, we had these really huge sofas. They loved jumping on sofas. But at my parents' house, you do not jump on sofas. It's like forbidden. I don't remember as a child jumping on sofas. But because we have this kind of free spirit ours, there came this like fear that when I took my children to other people's houses, especially my parents' house, they would behave in that way. So what I had to do was think, what is my fear? My fear is that they're going to jump on other people's sofas and make it look like I'm a bad mum and embarrass me. So what am I going to do? Okay, so then I sat down with them. They're only 3 and 4. And I said, look, at home, we don't have a problem with you jumping on the sofa because we know it's fun. I said, but when we leave this house, I want to see you respecting other people's sofas. No, never jump on anyone's sofa. So we get to Nanny's house. I said, remember what I said? We don't do it here. And they understand that. They don't jump on anyone's sofas but ours.
Do they eat food on the sofa though? Because that's my pet hate.
No.
It's when other parents' children come round and they go on the sofa with their shoes on and then they start eating some sort of messy chocolate sandwich all over the nice sofa.
Like when you walk into my house, you have to take your shoes off. And the thing is, I set the boundaries very early on. Like the boundaries are, hi, thank you for coming, shoes off please.
Before you've even said hello.
Hello, shoes off, please.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good idea. Anyway, coming back to the core and confidence and stuff, what would you say are your main takeaways from today's podcast? What people need to do to build that core up?
Okay, so let me give you this. The most important thing that you have to do to build your core self-esteem is to recognize that the words that you say to yourself are powerful, and that we are all walking around with this internal dialogue. Like we're talking to ourselves all day long. In fact, today when I got here, I went off to my favourite place.
Okay. You're not going to talk about your problem with the car park machine and your card getting eaten and all of that.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
I got here and I came in and I was like, Chris, I just need to go and get a coffee. He's like, yeah, sure. Walked across from the studio, there used to be something there, but now it's just glass windows. There was a woman and she was just walking, looking at her own reflection and talking to herself. And I was like, is she talking to herself? Is she talking to herself? And then she saw me thinking that, so she stopped. So then I went up to her and said, excuse me, sorry to trouble you, but were you just talking to yourself?
You just said to her, are you bonkers? Are you talking to yourself? Tell me, what's going on here?
She said, yes. And I said, what were you saying to yourself? She says, I was just trying to cheer myself up. I said, I've created a product which is all about saying positive affirmations. I wish I had one now for you. I said, what was you saying? She said, I can't really remember. The fact that she saw me and she stopped let me know that I've got an in here. She's not like bonkers. She was actually probably just needing to G herself up. And I thought, imagine if we lived in a world where everyone understood that the first thing you do to build yourself up is to look at your reflection and, say some positive words to yourself. It was amazing.
That's really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, and I bet she felt really positive after she talked to you and you were like, yeah, you do that. That's a great idea. Yeah. Carry on doing that.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask her if I could film her while she was doing it, but I thought that might be taking it to the next level.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
What else should you do?
Right, so what you should do is, shall I give you my morning routine? It's one that and remember we said on this podcast, never before have I given these techniques or hacks out for free. Here's a really important one which people pay to hear this. So I'm going to deliver this to you so you can use it. All about your morning routine and how you start the day. I know people have talked about this a lot, but this is the routine that I give to many of my clients. Now, depending if you're a Christian or you're into the universe, whatever your beliefs are, the minute you realize that you're awake, like the moment you consciously are, I'm awake, that is the moment you have to say to yourself, I'm so grateful that I'm awake. Like if the first thing you do every morning is to say, I'm so grateful I woke up. I always say, thank you, God, for giving me another breath. Sometimes thank you, universe, for giving me another breath. Just acknowledge the fact that you woke up and a lot of people did not wake up today. That's the first thing. Okay.
This is difficult for me because I am not a fan of waking up in the morning. Usually I get woken up by the baby being awake and I'm like, go back to sleep.
Okay. Well,
but yeah.
When you get the opportunity to wake up in your own time, but I don't, okay, that's not going to happen for maybe 5 or 6 more years. Sorry to put you, yes, I think it was about when I was 7 when I finally could wake up on my own nicely. So if you are with a young child, then I have no...
Find a moment where you can do this after you've changed the nappy and brought the milk up from downstairs and given him the iPad with Hey Dougie on. Then you can start your morning affirmations.
Exactly. But if you can, Chris, and this is for everyone, if you can, the minute you recognize you're awake, even if there's a screaming baby on your head, just take a moment just to say, I'm so glad I woke up. The reason why I say we have to say that straight away is just to take a moment to be grateful for the fact that we are awake, because a lot of people didn't wake up. And when we went to sleep, we didn't know that we were going to wake up.
And I think that's one of those things that as you go through life and more important people that you know die, and it happens, it's part of being alive, you start to appreciate how lucky you are to have life, because there's so many people that don't get to live to an old age, don't get to just exist as long as you have. And that's something to be grateful for.
Yeah, and I just had a birthday and there's loads of people who didn't make it to 38, and I don't know if I'm going to make it to 39. I honestly don't know, because when we come into this world, we have a birth certificate, which you recently saw with your little one, and it's the day the baby was born, and we all have one of those, hopefully, where we have a birth certificate, but no one gives us a death certificate and says, oh, by the way, here's your birth certificate. Oh, and this is the day you're leaving. None of us know the date that we're going. So if we don't know the date, then it could be at any point. Now, that's not to create anxiety, but I use that to create gratitude. Like, I woke up, I made it today. I'm grateful. Even if your whole house is falling down, you've got debt up to your eyeballs, and your husband's just left you, and someone in your life has passed away. If you just take that minute, because it gives you the power, you now are empowering yourself by saying, I made it.
Life is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
I love
You've heard that one, haven't
yes, life is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And I heard another one is that the two most important lessons in life, the two most important gifts in life is the day we were born and the day we realise what for. And I was like, that's powerful.
I don't know if I've had that day yet. What was I born for?
Well, you were born for this, Chris. This is why you're here. You're doing the thing that you were put here to do. You're living your best life. You're in that position right now.
Okay, because I always wanted to be an astronaut, but there's still time.
There is still time. We can find out from Elon, Mr. Elon, if we can make that happen.
Got any vacancies? Yeah, Elon Musk.
Yeah, Mr. Musk, sorry. But yeah, so the first thing is recognize that you're awake and say thank you and be grateful. And then I always say 3 things really fast that I'm grateful for. So I say I'm grateful for the bed that supported me through the night because it's been protecting me. I say I'm grateful for my children, and I'm grateful that I can move without pain, because some days as we get older, yesterday I had such a sore groin. I literally sounds rude, doesn't it? I will lean into that a bit more. I got out the car and I'd been sitting in the car for such a long time, and I misjudged how far away the car was from the pavement. So as my foot went down, I felt like a ping in my hamstring. So all yesterday I was like hobbling around. So this morning I was like, I'm so grateful that I can move without pain.
So the groin fixed itself overnight. I have problems with the boot on my car. If my car's parked on a hill, I'll just whack my head on the top of the boot because it's lower than I expect. So I'll be trying to get something out of the boot and just...
But the point is I say those 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then what I do is I say, today's going to be a really great day. I can't wait to see what happens today. And that means that I go out looking for good things to happen. I'm like, I got a parking space. How cool's that? And it's like, it's just about these little things, of these little drops of gratitude. And there's a quote by Oprah where she says, if you're grateful for what you have, you'll have more. But if you complain about what you don't have, you'll never have enough. Nothing will be enough. And I don't want to be like that.
No, and I think also just not letting anybody spoil your day, because your day is going to start off great, and until something happens that makes it not great, it's going to stay great. So don't let those things happen. Don't give someone the power to spoil your good day as it's going along. Maybe
as I walked up to the studio, it'd been perfect timing for a bird to poo on my head. So I miss getting a bird poo on my head.
That's lucky though.
Yeah, they say it is. I just don't want bird poo on my hair. That would take a nightmare to get out.
It's happened to all of us. Well, worse than that. I used the wrong towel the other day, and it was the towel that got the child poo on, and I just had a lovely shower and thought, this towel smells funny. I had to have another shower.
See, this is the parenting saga that I actually am so grateful my children are older now.
It's just, I was just drying my face. I was like,
oh my no. That is just, I can just smell the poo.
Yeah, I could. And I didn't want to even look in the mirror because I was like, back in the shower. I don't want to know what has just happened. I'm just going to erase this from history.
I think that is probably one of the most awful stories I've ever heard about being a parent. Really. So, Chris, let me ask you, how is it? How is fatherhood?
Do you see, you asked me this after I've just come back from a week's holiday with a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old, which was supposed to be the most relaxing week ever. Just beautiful, lovely children frolicking around in the French countryside. And it was literally just like a week of being a full-time carer to children and not a holiday at all. Children had a great time, but we need a holiday now to kind of get over the holiday. So
everything about that setting, going to the French Alps, having the chateau and the beautiful children, but it never really is that, is it?
It was just the same stuff, just in a different location. So it was the worst thing was there's a lot of driving in France, and having him in the car seat. The 4-month-old cries when he's hungry, fair enough, but the 2-year-old in the car has just started shouting really loudly, just screaming, singing, mainly Old MacDonald. But deafeningly and at the most stressful moments when you're trying to drive on the wrong side of the road for the first time, and you're coming out of the airport and trying to look at the sat nav and say, am I in the right lane here? And he's going as loud as possible. It's really, really hard to be rational in these situations.
I totally agree. And I remember with my little ones, there was a time when it was a real like moment for me when I was driving along. They were both in the little car seats, and I looked in the rear view mirror and saw them and thought, how on earth have I got the responsibility of these two little humans? Realize like we are actually their keepers.
Yeah, well, at least I've got a wife that I can sort of give the full responsibility to. So I kind of feel like I'm not entirely responsible, but I do have to sometimes step up and take that responsibility.
I like that. And bringing it back to the podcast and everything you need to succeed, you can take things from this and you can grow and develop. You know, we're not fixed. We actually can develop and we can grow with the more that we know, but we have to implement it. So along the way, everything that you're learning with your little ones, you know, you're going to be able to take that information and probably use that in your business, in your life. You're going to be more patient,
it's definitely
caring.
teaching me more patience just with adults, because no adult is ever as
MacDonald has a farm.
I think it'd be brilliant. You should try that. Next time somebody annoys you, just start shouting E-I-E-I-O at them.
And see what they do.
And happy birthday is his other thing. He'll just start singing happy birthday to people. And I mean, he's got a 1 in 365 chance there, but most of the time it's not their birthday. And if it is, they're going to be freaked out.
Because, oh wow, so that's his favourite song now, is it?
Yeah, he loves it. Just, happy birthday you, just like that, over and over again.
That actually could be quite annoying, but...
It could be, yeah, it can be, believe me.
Well, I will end it with this, is that my birthday was last week, and I absolutely love getting older. I love my birthdays, and I couldn't believe how many people took the time to leave me a birthday voice note of them singing the song. Yeah, I had happy birthday in like every possible key you can imagine.
Aww.
And it was like after a while I was like, I spent a lot of my birthday listening to people sing happy birthday.
Do you listen to every single one though? So you'd have felt bad not listening. Can they tell? Is there a little tick if you haven't listened to it?
I've been speeding them up. And some people like come in with like, they're coming like with a real cool, like they've thought about it and they're like
a little rap.
And then you're like, happy birthday to you.
Oh, Stevie Wonder.
And then you've got someone, happy birthday to you. And then my good friend, Chrissy, who's like a vocalist, she comes in with this like diva kind of rendition. And I was just like, on your birthday, it's the day of the year where everyone feels like you want them to sing happy birthday to them. But I don't think we really do we?
Maybe we need to encourage the world to move on from the happy birthday song, because if it's 30 seconds per person, and say you've got 120 friends, that's an hour of your birthday taken up just listening to bad singing.
Yeah, and that kind of was, I after about 40 minutes, I sound so ungrateful, don't I?
No, really, you've stuck through 40 minutes of voice notes of happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. And then that's why when Aaron walked in, I was like, actually, no, I'm not going to do it to you. I said, I'm not going to sing it to you.
I mean, our friend outside, his birthday today, but he didn't tell anybody. And he's just been keeping a really low profile. And now he's sat in the office working on his...
We ready, Aaron? Let's go for it. 1, 2, 3, go.
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Aaron. Happy birthday to you. How often do we do stuff that we don't really want to do just so we don't upset other people?
Almost my entire life is spent doing things I don't really want to do, so I don't upset other people. This podcast, for example. No, I'm joking. Let's wrap things up.
Yes.
So you've got your takeaways. What's on the next episode?
Right, the next episode is a really important episode. It's all about personality, a powerful personality. So this is all about how to actually create a healthy personality where people want to be around you. You know, you're either a radiator or a drain. So please join us, step 4. And step 4 is going to be all about how do you internally change your personality.
Brilliant. Can't wait. Thank you very much. And let me be the first to wish you happy birthday for next year.
Thank you.